Hello everyone, peace be upon you all. Welcome to video number 15 and demonstrating deceit. In this video, we are going to start with doctrine number E of the Jahmites. God cannot be described by characteristics, therefore it is impossible to describe what he is. However, it is known by intuition that he is, that he exists. And we have here a quote. Among them, the Jahmites are people who deny God all attributes. They say God is not a thing, nor is he something of a thing, nor is he something which is in a thing, nor does the attribute of a thing apply to him, nor the knowledge of a thing, nor the estimation of a thing. They argue that they know God only by intuition. They apply to him the name Godhead, but do not describe him by any attribute which pertains to the Godhead. The Jahmites, quoted by the traditionalist Abu Hussein al-Malati, I would prefer to call him primitivist, as I have explained in the previous video, argue on the basis of Aristotle's theory of knowledge. They distinguish between knowing what something is and that something is. In other words, they distinguish between a thing's essence and its existence. Their argument can be summarized as follows. To answer the what question and to acquire knowledge of what a thing is, at least two terms which are the same in reference but different in meaning are needed. At least two terms refer to the same object, but terms that are different in meaning, not the same, not a synonym. The meanings which provide this knowledge of a thing are acquired by a kind or degree of abstraction or of properties or characteristics from sensible things, one of which is estimation. The knowledge of what a thing is happens when enough properties or characteristics which are peculiar to that thing in question are abstracted and constitute in the mind what the thing is. The abstraction of the property or characteristic presupposes that at least two things or two states of a thing are like or unlike each other with regard to this property or characteristic, since otherwise the property or characteristic is not intellectually perceived as a property or characteristic. In other words, in order to recognize the existence of a thing, it must be like or unlike another thing. Being peculiar to a thing presupposes that the peculiarity does not belong to some other thing, which is, with regard to this peculiarity, unlike the first thing. In other words, this property must be exclusive to the thing that it belongs. The Jahmites quoted by al-Malati deny that this is the case with regard to God, arguing that he neither is a thing, so that thing can be predicated of him, nor does he belong to a thing, so that he can be said to be something of a thing, nor is he a property or characteristic inherent in a thing, so that he can be said to be in a thing. Since God lacks every property or characteristic which can be said to belong or not to belong to a thing, God is not object of the knowledge of what a thing is. In reply to the question, what is God, and to what does the name God refer, and what does it mean God's whatness, can be only explained by God is the being God. And the name refers to and means Godhead. Given this, the Jahmites maintain that there is no concept formation with regard to God. However, according to them, there is demonstrative knowledge that God is, i.e., that God exists. This knowledge happens by intuition, i.e., spontaneously. By intuition is usually signified in Arabic by bilhats, but biltakhmin is also attested. In Avicenna's theory of knowledge, intuitive things are data provided by finding the middle term of a syllogism based on experience. In other words, intuition is finding the cause why something is the case based on experience. In the Jahmites' theory of knowledge, God is the real agent of any activity which is perceived in corporeal things. The knowledge that God is, according to the Jahmite theory, is knowing by intuition that every coming to be and passing away and every alteration is caused by a first cause. Now, F. All attributes and verbs applied to God are identical in meaning and reference. And a reference, a quote from Al-Darimi's Rad. They, i.e. the Jahmites, do not affirm with regard to God a face, nor a property of hearing, nor a property of seeing, nor a property of knowing, nor a property of speaking, nor any property. And they use the terms his hearing, his seeing, his knowing, his speaking with one and the same meaning. The phrase nor any property at the end of the enumeration of things which are not affirmed with regard to God is used in the sense of etc. This indicates that the preceding terms hearing, seeing, knowing, speaking refer to properties or characteristics rather than to the activities to hear, to see, to know, to speak, etc., which signify actualized states of being. Further, the term sifa, which means characteristic, may either refer to attribute in the sense of a morphologically defined class of words, which signify that a property and characteristic belongs to a thing, or to the property and characteristic itself, indicated by verbal nouns such as speaking, hearing, and seeing. In the present context, it refers to the property itself abstracted from sensible activities. The Jahmites argue that it is impossible that to God belong properties, inasmuch as he is not a thing to which belongs the property of being like or unlike. Therefore, they argue that terms signifying properties, when used with regard to God, are not only coextensive, i.e., identical in reference, but also cointensive, i.e., identical in meaning, affirming of God nothing except Godhead or Godhood. According to this theory of meaning, no predication of God is possible. Any affirmation regarding God indicates the identity of the terms in sense and reference. This also holds for the infinite term non-body. The theory of sense and reference reported from the Jahmites agrees with that of the New Arian Eunomius of Cyzicus, and it disagrees with that of the Church Fathers, according to which, with regard to God, privative affirmations of properties can be taken in the sense of negative predications. On first sight, it may seem that the account that Jahm accepted descriptions of God by which no thing can be described, means that he accepted them as predications regarding God. But awsaf, descriptions, means descriptions in the sense of actions of describing, not in the sense of attributes which refer to properties abstracted from something. Given this, the accounts report that Jahm allowed that God is described in language by terms which refer to non-thing, i.e., that which is outside the realm of like and unlike, and this reference is not a predication. G. God is the only cause of all things. Jam said, in reality, no activity belongs to something except God alone. He is the agent, whereas the activities of humans only in tropical speech are correlated to them. In the way in which someone says the tree moves, the celestial body moves in a circle, the sun goes down, but in reality it is God who exercises that effect upon the tree, the celestial body, and the sun. However, God creates for man a particular potency by which the activity happens. He creates for him in each individual case a particular act of will and a particular act of choice to exercise the particular activity, by that in the same way in which he creates for him a particular length by which he is long and a particular color by which he is colored. The account does not explain which kind of tropical speech is meant. Tropical speech means metaphorical speech, but it seems that a metonymic inversion of agency and patiency is meant, meaning the apparent agent is actually a patient, means acted upon. In tropical speech, agency is attributed to the patient, but in reality the sensible compound whose movement is perceived is the effect of God's agency, namely of his creation of the movement in the corporeal compound described by the tree moves. What holds for movements, acts of will, and choice, length and shortness, colors, etc., also holds for the Quran. Jahmi used to say that the Quran is a body and the effect of God. And he used to say that movements are also are bodies. There is no agent except God. According to Jam's theory of creation, every perceivable property of the corporeal is caused anew in every instant and time of time. This theory is reported more elaborately from Dirar ibn Amr. Summary and conclusions. Jam's and Dirar's basic distinction between the composite generate and the incomposite ingenerate is a commonplace in later Muslim theology. It ultimately goes back to the issue of being and becoming in pre-Socratic philosophy, which had been associated with the problem of the one in Plato's Parmenides, and which attained particular importance in the Christian Trinitarian debates. The overall goal of Jam's refusal of attributes of God is to preserve God's simplicity by ruling out any kind of predication regarding God and to explain the names and attributes by which God is appellated in the Quran and according to reason in a way that excludes composition, because the latter entails becoming and generateness. It is therefore likely that Jam drew on arguments developed in Christian Trinitarian debates rather than immediately on pagan Neoplatonism, and that he took up arguments which served in the Trinitarian debates to refute a unity of the divine essence and its hypostases. In particular, Arians argued against Christian defenders of the divine hypostases, who, who interpreted the hypostases as distinct properties, proper features, peculiarities, specific properties, or characteristics, which function as circumscription of the divine essence and describe the essence in language by attaching descriptions or attributes to the name of the essence, saying God Father, God Son, God Holy Spirit. Jam and Dirar did not follow the Aristotelian division of things into essences and accidents and into essential and non-essential parts, but applied a division into the material mutable passive on one hand and the immaterial immutable active on the other hand, assigning composition and materiality to created things and incomposition and immateriality to God. They did in no sense admit a plurality of intelligible ideas in God or between God and universe. Their theories entail the refusal of atomic material elements of the corporeal, of natural faculties inherent in things, and in particular of Aristotle's theory of prime matter and form and of nature comprehended as causal, productive power which effects generation, corruption, and change in sensible things. Jam and Dirar replaced the efficacy of natural powers in the sense of principles and causes of being and becoming, of affecting and undergoing change and being, addressed by God's immediate, intentional, creative power, which generates the natural world as a consequence of contingent events of becoming to be and passing away. The common element of the theses is the understanding of the corporeal as the substrate of non-persistent affections and activities, and the interpretation that generation and corruption and the alteration of the states of natural bodies is due to those non-persistent properties generated ex nihilo by God's act of volition. This is why the Mu'tazilite Al-Nazam, himself a prominent exponent of those who adhere to the theory of natures inherent in material things, attacked Jam and Dirar in the same breath because of their denial of the hiddenness of natures and properties in things and appellated them as the adherents of the accidents. And with that, we reach the end of the video. Thank you for watching and see you later.